Hey, this is Brandon McManus, Denver Broncos Super Bowl champion, and you listen to The Scoop on alscoop.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Scoop, alscoop.com's podcast. This is season 6, episode 28, the Marshall Faulk episode. We can throw in some other 28s there, although we might be stumped this week. Again, John DeCarlo, joined by Sam Cohn and Sam Neumann. Kyle Gauss is not with us. He's still alive, just to say he's not with us, but off this week. Hopefully he'll be back next week. How you guys doing?
Alive and well. Today's Sam's and my wellness day. It's our second out of 2 days the entire semester that we have off. John, I guess technically it's a wellness day for you too. You don't have work, or you have less work, but
I have work to do. You're just not. So both you guys, are in my advanced sports reporting class. So I did not email anybody about any class related stuff today. Give them a break. Tried to send a limited number of work emails. So I can't say it's not a work day. I had work to do, but we're encouraged to kind of take some time, but when you get work emails, you have to respond to them. I don't know. I don't know that I sent any responses saying, sorry, wellness day, get back to you tomorrow, but I don't know. What would
it's
you
also it's also like the middle of the week. So I still have work I have to do. Like I have to finish my project for your class for tomorrow. And like I have other work for other classes.
Guilt trip.
So like it's a wellness day we have off from classes, but I still have things I need to do.
And it's raining. It's a torrential downpour outside, so you can't really enjoy the weather. What did you guys get to do? Anything relaxing? Sam Neumann, you had to get up and work, right?
No, I was working. I got to watch a couple episodes of The Shield today. That was relaxing for me, I guess. Not I guess relaxing. That show's pretty intense, but checking it out for the first time because my dad and uncle have told me that it's like one of the greatest shows. So lives up to the hype so far. So people might have not have checked it out. It's on Hulu, so. Besides that, not really anything. My group got ahead and we got our podcast done we recorded our podcast at Monday. I think it's already edited by now. So for John's advanced sports writing class, looks like Sam's a bit of a slacker on this one, but
Did I just Google The Shield? Maybe I did. Didn't realize that was a show back.
Who's to say?
It's a great show. I love it.
2002. It's an older show, right?
Yeah. Michael Chiklis.
So nothing particularly interesting on Wellness Day other than Sam watching The Shield. Sam is sporting his high school track and field jacket as we record this. And he got a new podcast.
It's comfy. And that's the big news of the week is I got a podcasting mic.
There you go.
Because podcasting is something that we do somewhat frequently. I figure it was time.
Yes. So we have Go ahead, Sam.
Well, I don't know if this is that exciting, but my fully vaccinated parents will be coming to visit me on Saturday. So
there you go.
I haven't seen them since January, so that'll be nice.
Now, what are you guys going to do?
Phenomenal.
We are going to, what are we doing? We're going to go get food somewhere. My parents are huge foodies. My dad has already been looking up places to go. My parents love Guy Fieri and Diner drive-ins and dives and always try to go to those places wherever. So apparently there's a couple on in Philly in like 2020. I think there's this sandwich shop like on South Street called like Woodrow something that my parents want to try. So we're going to go do that.
You go to Krispy Kreme and get a free donut.
They could. I'm not vaccinated yet. We have a Krispy Kreme by our house in Charlotte. Not to brag or anything.
Sam Cohn giving you all of the out of the way haunts. There's this mom and pop donut place called Creamed. Not sure if you've heard of it.
Yeah, this is mom and pop donut place called Federal Donuts. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh God, I miss Federal Donuts.
It's great. Federal Donuts is so great.
Just driving into the office and saying, 7th and Spring Garden. Well, not 7th and Fairmount, more like not too far away, but Federal Donuts is incredible.
We talk about bad cheesesteak experiences like at the end. I don't think I've ever had a bad experience at Federal Donuts. So we always get a bang for your buck there.
Well, have you had the chicken there too?
Yeah, I've had. It's pretty good. Solid stuff.
Sam, you'll have to let us know where you guys go to get food, whether it's if you're sitting outside or it's takeout or something like that. It depends on what they're looking for. So your dad's just going to provide the list, and you guys are just going to eat yourselves to
Yeah,
death.
that's my dad's thing. Is like whenever my parents like go away somewhere, like my dad is like the ultimate vacation planner ever. I mean, I guess this is considered a vacation, so like he'll look and for food and that sort of stuff. So I will let you guys know where we end up.
Calories don't count when you're on vacation.
No, yeah, they never do. It's a myth.
Sam Cohn, if your parents if they come down to visit you and they love you and care about you, do they come down and visit you? And if so, where do you guys go to eat?
Where would my parents come?
Yeah.
Like if my parents came, where would we go? My mom has only been here once. My dad has been here a handful of times to help me move, and usually we'll get a cheesesteak, him and I. There's a good barbecue place I think it's in Fishtown, called Fede Sal that we like a lot. I'm trying to think where else. Yeah, usually won't get anything crazy. Just because like my parents just don't eat cheesesteaks. Neither of them are from Philly. Neither of them have spent much time in Philly. So like if my dad's here, like we're getting something quick, we'll either get cheesesteaks or barbecue, or if both my parents are here, like one of those options. That's
Speaking
usually our
of
go-to.
cheesesteak, I was going to try and take my parents to Angelo's, but apparently they had a fire there and they're like closed right now. I had no idea.
Oh geez.
Yeah. I have yet to eat at Angelo's. Like, I mean, kudos to them. They're always super packed. It's tough to get in there anyway. Again, it's, you got to go in, it's takeout stuff. Yes, they had a fire.
I think they've been closed since like December or something like that.
I think something like that. I mean, if you follow them on Instagram, they're pretty funny. They're constantly talking about their updates, and they've had a fire, they've had a flood and stuff like that. So I've not been to Angelo's yet. We'll have some cheesesteak talk later in the episode. We have an interview for you guys with Temple recruit, Temple signee Hysier Miller. As you guys know, he's planning on being a big part of Temple's future. One of 2 recruits so far from the 2021 class, along with Zach Hicks from Camden Catholic High School. There's a mailbag question there for National Cheesesteak Day. It's not too much of a cheesesteak guy, but he lives in South Philly, not too far from Phillips Cheesesteaks, which is a kind of a underrated place. I haven't been there yet. For all the years that I lived in South Philly and had a house down there on the other side of Broad Street, never got over there, but maybe we'll venture out into the suburbs here somewhere to get a cheesesteak tonight somewhere in Delaware County. Sam, one last food question for you before we get to the Hysier Miller interview. And we got a little bit of football stuff for you. There's a football mailbag question too. Some conversation about Temple losing out on Weston Kramer. Was supposed to come in as really would have been a high impact transfer defensive tackle. Has now decommitted from Temple. Sam, if I get to Boston again and I miss the North End, haven't been there in a while, where beyond like some of the, like, everybody talks about Mike's up there, the famous bakery. What's your favorite restaurant up there? I know there's
Fire and Ice.
Fire and Ice.
Fire and Ice. It is my favorite restaurant in the world, and there are 2 of them, but one shut down. There was one in Harvard Square and one in Cambridge, and I forget which one shut down, but I had been going there for my birthday every year for more than a decade. Like probably since I was like 10, I had gone there every year for my birthday. 10 to, like I had been going every year for my birthday. I love that place.
Imagine you wearing a Mom, Fire and Ice, Fire and Ice, Fire and Ice.
It is so good. And I was so sad that one shut down like within the last 2 years, I think. And then obviously the other one wasn't open or hasn't been open because of COVID. So I haven't been in since pre-pandemic. I guess my birthday before the pandemic. So
you weren't able to go for your 21st birthday, right?
No, I couldn't go for my 21st, but I think I went for my 20th.
What's
and
Fire
my mom?
And Ice? Tell us about Fire and Ice.
So it's the kind of place where like it's like a nice restaurant where they make the food in front of you. Basically, like there's a buffet of raw food and raw vegetables and raw, like literally anything you can think of. And they give you a bowl to start with, and you put everything you want, like, rice, noodles, meats, veggies, whatever, into the bowl, and you pick a sauce. And then there's this big circular grill in the middle of the place, and you like get in line, and then they like throw your food onto the giant grill, and then they cook it all in front of you and they give it back to you. So it's kind of like stir frying everything. They also have burgers there, which my dad likes a lot, but I don't know. I don't like to go there for burgers. So I usually get like just like some mix of rice or noodles or meat and veggies, and The food is spectacular there.
Sam, I'm on their website right now. You are not in any of their pictures.
I should be.
It's
I
a shame.
honestly should be.
He would be like blowing out birthday candles in one of them.
That is my go-to restaurant if I'm going into Boston. And my mom actually texted me the other day and said, once this whole thing is over, we'll go to Fire and Ice. And I said, I'm there.
Now, what about my original question was if I'm going specifically to the North End.
Okay.
Like
places in the North End, just like general food.
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times and I just remember walking around. There were so many Italian restaurants and it just smelled like sauce and meatballs and I was like, this is good. Like, again, like people traditionally think South Philly. I think New York's, my apologies to our North Jersey and New York listeners. I think New York's Little Italy is a tad overrated. I think you can get good Italian food all over North Jersey and other parts of the city, but the North End really struck me. It was good.
There's a little Italian place. Little isn't just small, not like Little Italy. There's a small Italian place in the North End that I went to, I think like last winter. And one of my friends, his uncle, knows the guy that runs it. So he was able to get us a table. And I'll have to get back to you on the name, but that was a really, really good kind of like hole in the wall Italian place. Mm-hmm. That would be the first one that comes to mind. But I would not say I'm a frequenter of food in the North End because it is expensive. Mm-hmm. And the North End is extremely nice. But it's also really nice to walk around. Mm-hmm. Like it's to just kind of go walk around the North End. And then there's the place with the milkshakes that I'm blanking on the name that has these giant like smoothie, like not smoothies, I guess so, like milkshakes that are creative and fun. That's cool. But I'm again blanking on the name of that. I'd have to look it up.
Well, we'll save that for next week. Sam's
I'll have some homework to do for next week's pod.
So and we actually in this Hysier Miller interview that you're going to hear in a second, he actually talks about cooking a little bit. Said that that's something he likes to do outside of basketball. But again, you guys know him as, again, like I said before, a big part of this Temple recruiting class, averaged a double-double this season for Neumann-Goretti, 18.4 points per game, 10 rebounds, had 2 double-doubles this year, including one and a 1-point overtime loss to Archbishop Wood. They had a tough situation this year where they had a player that later in the season was declared ineligible and they had to forfeit some wins. So they couldn't compete for the PCL title. They're not in the PIAA playoffs. But again, Hysier Miller, one of 2 players coming in along with Zach Hicks from Camden Catholic. You're going to hear from him now. Got into a little bit of everything, why he chose Temple, what he does outside of basketball. I think you'll hear a guy that, talks a lot about leadership, his toughness, where that came from, how his recruitment came together. So we'll play this interview for you here and react to it on the other side. All right. We are excited to be joined on this week's episode of The Scoop by a first-team Philadelphia Catholic League, Philadelphia first-team All-Catholic League selection, and you guys know him as an important piece of Temple's recruiting class for next year. Neumann-Goretti point guard Hysier Miller, kind enough to join us on The Scoop. Thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
Thank you, man. Appreciate you for having me.
Oh, no problem. Well, let's start with the first question there. The first-team All-Philadelphia Catholic League piece of things. That's one part of a really successful season that you have, but how many great players have come through the Philly Catholic League. What does that honor mean to you?
I'm honored, but I also look back at the work I put in to get there. So sometimes I'll be wanting more. So I'm always the type of guy that is an honor, but always know there's also more work to put in. So I always kind of use it as motivation. Like, don't ever get stagnant when you get like an accolade or something. You just always got to know there's more to get and there's bigger things.
This year, how frustrating was this season between, having to follow COVID protocols and having to forfeit certain games? How tough has that been considering you guys won the PCL last season?
It's been tough, but, you guys got to deal with it the best way possible and to stay together as a unit.
Hey, Hysier, where do you think you got better as a player this past season?
I feel like I got better as a leader, just communicate with my teammates and just find the others and just making the game simplified and making it easy.
Hysier, growing up in the city, you've probably heard fans talk about how important they think it is for Temple to keep some of the best players home, but you know how hard that is. I mean, even just being a Neumann-Goretti guy, some of the best players there, whether it's Quade Greens, Jardine, Rick Jackson, those guys have gone on to places like Syracuse and Kentucky. Some guys are just, really highly recruited. Some guys feel like they want to get out of the city and experience something else. You were different, and it seemed like staying home really meant something to you. And because it did, this fan base, the Temple fan base, people who are listening to this podcast really seem excited about you staying home and coming to Temple. I think you're the first Neumann-Goretti guy in recent memory to commit to Temple. Do you kind of have a sense of how excited the Temple fan base is about you coming there next year?
A little bit, but I know they're pretty excited. I'm excited as well, but I didn't really grasp everything yet. But I know, like, I've been seeing them on Twitter, over my page and stuff like that. A lot of people have been like just excited that I was committed to Temple and things like that.
You were obviously a big part of you guys beating Roman and winning the PCL title last season, but at that point, your recruitment still hadn't really taken off just yet. When did things start to change? Can you kind of take us through that process of when your recruitment, I guess, started to build up?
Just after the championship game, like, a lot of more schools started reaching out to me, and like going into like the AAU period before like everything got shut down. That's when they were starting to like kind of rise a little bit. But like with the COVID, it kind of slowed down. At the same time, it was going to like almost rise.
And you were playing in a run over the summer in New Jersey where you dropped 50. Can you take us through how that kind of played a role, in your recruitment, what that did for your game and for exposure of your play?
It got me some good film out to more coaches like the Temple. They could see a little bit more. And honestly, like, I just put the work in. So I knew that coming into that game, I just got to be aggressive and just try to showcase some of the things I've been working on over the summer.
What do you remember about that game? I mean, you scored 50 points. Like, what stood out for your game? What are some of the things you had worked on over the summer in terms of from those runs?
Just being able to, like, get some separation when you shoot. So basically, a good shot, you got to get some separation because always it's not going to be a catch and shoot. So just be able to create a little bit of separation. And also just get some nice angles and attack that whole finish. Just work on my finishing as well.
So with the way things have been during the pandemic, you couldn't take a lot of visits. You continue to get better and better, and obviously went on to have a heck of a season even after you committed to Temple and then signed with them. A lot of people think you're underrated, and then Temple got a steal, and that you might have gotten some bigger offers had you held out. Do you feel that way, or is that something you just don't really think about?
I don't really get into like recruitment thing. I'm always big on relationships. So like even if it's a bigger school, I always choose like a smaller school or something based off the relationship. So relationships big for me, and like how the next person treat the next person, and like that family mentality, that family environment.
Hysier, a lot of people know you by your nickname Fabe. Can you tell our listeners where that comes from and the origin story of that nickname?
Before I had my mom had her little brother, my little brother, I'm sorry. I was the youngest child, so I was the baby. So everybody just called me the baby. But my brother that's older than me, he couldn't pronounce it, so he always said Faby. So I just took the Faby away and just it's all Fabe. But it doesn't matter to me either or.
And another question for you about your game. I recently talked to Coach Brennan about your season and kind of where you've improved. And one thing that he mentioned is the big part of your game that's taken a step forward is your ability to get to the basket and kind of compose yourself and go into contact. He said he didn't have the number off the top of his head, but your number of and ones this season has been astronomical. Can you take us through, like, how do you work on that part of your game?
I think a lot comes with like condition as well. Like I do like a lot of layup drills and different type of finishes, and even just working out, I just do like layups that I wouldn't normally do in the game, but just in case it happens, I'll be ready for like that angle or something. So most times I just be in shape. I'm in shape, so like I can go to length of the floor with somebody around me and I still be able to finish because I won't be as tired or as fatigued as the next person.
So back in July, our friend Del Greco-Wilson, I know you know Del really well. He wrote a really good piece on you, and part of the title was called "The Long, Slow Grind." It was again, a really good story. I'd recommend everybody who's listening to this podcast reading. And it was really about your whole journey, your whole story, and how, you know, it even took you a while to get to Neumann-Goretti. You were commuting up to King to play, and you played for Sean Colson there. Can you tell us a little bit about that time and just playing under him and what it took for you to get to Goretti? Because, you know, I think some people think, oh, he just ended up at Goretti and was a star right away, but you really had to work at it.
Sean Coulson, he definitely my time at King was definitely a interesting time because a lot of stuff I didn't understand what he was telling me because I just wanted to go get 20 points because I feel like at the time I had the capability to. So, but he always told me like play the game the correct way. You know, if you got a teammate open, find them all the time. Even if they 0 for 6, give them a 7th shot, give them a chance. And that really played a big role in my development because you gotta play the game the right way when you're around a talent level that's up to par. What I would say, because sometimes we didn't always have like exactly basketball players on our team. Like we would have regular students. It was different from Neumann-Goretti, but it definitely played a huge role in my development. Just being able to think the game and always play the right way.
So your family, particularly your mother Juanita and your brother Mark, are a big part of your life. Can you talk about what they've meant to you and what it's going to mean to have them close by when you're at Temple?
When I think about my mom and my brother, they always push me to get more out of anything. So like I always know that if I complete something, try to complete it faster, try to complete it in a different way. Always just push me to the next level and always know that if you do complete something or don't always get overly confident, know it's more from the growth. So when I think about them two as individuals, they always push me to that next level, give me the next gear and always fuel me.
And just going back to your game a little bit, was there a particular point last season, whether it was a moment in practice or something in a game where you really felt like you were starting to turn a corner because you really came in at Neumann-Goretti kind of having to try to prove yourself?
I feel like the most important part of the season last year for me is when I realized that like I was bigger I meant more than a team into just scoring and defense. I knew that I had to like come out of my comfort zone and talk more and be really a vocal leader. And actually, everything, you know, if you say something to the next person, your teammate, you got to be doing your diligence. So I always knew that for me to say something to the next person, I always had to just be on my be sharp myself almost. That was a big part for me, just realizing that like somebody had to step up and be the guy that could tell the next person, you know, pick it up or let's get a better shot and just lock in on defense. Like that was like a role that I realized that needed to be filled.
Hysier, in addition to Carl Aragal, a guy on the staff who's been important to you is one of the assistants, Coach John Brennan. We talk about him a lot. He posts a lot of your workouts and a lot of video from your runs last summer. Can you tell us about the work you've put in with him in those early mornings in the summer, all the work that you guys had to do when you couldn't be at your own gym, and really what he's like as a coach and just a person?
Coach John is almost he not almost he more than a coach because with us, our relationship and a lot of relationships that I see him have with other kids is always more than basketball. But the work we put in, it's just some people they're not built for it. Like I feel like when you got a coach that believes in you so much, like Coach John, he gonna instill that confidence and that dedication, that grind. Like even if you got it yourself, he gonna make it better. Like so, he the type of guy that'll bring more out of you. So the work we put in, it was me as well, but he also pushed me and reminded me that it's always more work and to train like a professional, train like you're going to get paid for it, train like this what you're going to feed your family from, and always take every rep serious.
And just on the note of your guys' summer workouts and Coach John Brennan posting a lot of that stuff up, he had told me that you guys will be in games this past season, and that's the kind of thing he'll bring up. Like, we were the ones at 6 a.m, you know, running on the bridge and working out over the summer. And he said that's become a big part of your culture, I guess, and bringing you guys together. How has fighting through a pandemic to work out over the summer helped your team this past season, help build the culture, help build that toughness of your group?
Because we all live by almost the same motto when you come to Neumann-Goretti as a basketball player. We all know is like what you put in is what you get out of it. So we know that if we put enough work in, we're gonna expect the results. But at the same time, it's basketball. So sometimes you might forget all the work you put in. So we just use that to remind ourselves like the next team didn't do this. So why are we gonna cut ourselves short? Let's play like we want to play. Let's play like how we train to play. So that's why we always reflect on all the work we put in, because we put the work in. So let's get the most out of the work we put in.
So this might sound like a simple question, but everybody describes you saying he's really tough. He's really tough. And that might sound like a basic term, but that not every player is like that today. And I know that's something that appealed to Aaron and Chris and the whole staff there. And then on top of that, you can shoot, you can play, you can defend, and you've got all that with it. It sounds like a simple question. Where does that toughness come from? Because not every player is like that. They can be skilled, but the toughness isn't there, and coaches worry about that. Temple does not seem to be worried about that with you. Where does that come from?
It comes from experience. It comes from like this trial and error going through stuff. Cause like when I first started my high school career, I wasn't the best defender. Like it's videos of me, actually people scoring on me and stuff like that. So Coach Sean always tell me, play defense. And at the time, I was young. I didn't have a body for it, and I always knew that that's something I want to be able to do, because I take it personal if the next person score on me or the next person score on my teammate. I take it personal if we not doing everything we supposed to be doing. So that's something that's where the toughness comes from. Just taking everything personal and wanting to be better, because if you be tough on defense, that allow you to get out in transition, allow you to do a lot more. So I always realized that you got to stay tough.
Real quick question for you before we have some mailbag questions here from some listeners and fans. Mm-hmm. When you committed to Temple and you finally decided to go to Temple, I know you've talked to Sam about this before. What was it about Aaron? I know you said there was the relationship piece of it, but what was it about Aaron and the staff specifically where you just said, I'm shutting this down and I'm committing to Temple?
When you get recruited, I feel like as a person, like I can decipher if when somebody's like, I could decipher the realness or just how a person communicate with me. So just my relationship with them as a whole through the whole time. It was never a time when I felt like maybe this, maybe that. It's always been upfront and honest with me. And that's one thing as a person, I'm completely honest. I wouldn't go here and tell you a lie if I could tell you the truth. If I knew the truth, you're going to know the truth. That's something I live by. So it always was like Aaron, he just so much wisdom throughout his recruitment, and just not even before I even committed, he would just give me advice and more advice and more advice. And they'll always leave me the positive stuff. Even with Chris, he'll give me advice and he'll always keep it real with me. And then we had conversations that outside of basketball, outside of my recruitment, even though, like, cause I feel like a coach can ask me like, how your family doing? Anybody can ask you how your family doing, cause they just want to make sure you're okay. But like, it's bigger than that. We had life conversations about jobs, your future outside of basketball. So that was big for me. Like just being around a staff that like, it wasn't just about the sport. It was more than that. And then when it came to the sport, they also gave you the feedback or the knowledge that you needed.
So we got some reader mailbag questions here, and these are screen names that I'm reading off, the names of people. So the first one comes from the screen name is Mike TB31. His question: who are you actively recruiting to join you at Temple? So I know guys sometimes will say, hey, talk to some other guys in high school, come play with us. Is there anybody you're trying to get to come to Temple with you in the future?
I've been talking to the coaches and into a couple kids, but one interesting prospect that I really like is one of my close friends, Javon Adams. He go to Olympus, class 2022, like a 6'9", 6'7". 6'9", 6'8" forward, but he got guard skills. But I like his game a lot. If you guys don't know who that is, kind of get a whiff of it because you're going to know soon.
The next one, the screen name is Fig1. His question: looking forward to seeing you in Cherry and White. What are your personal goals for your upcoming freshman year, and have you decided on a major yet?
Me and Coach Brennan was actually talking about a major all today, so that's something that we're getting a little bit closer to. That it's getting closer to picking that. And some of my personal goals just coming in and being assertive, being a leader. Just try to fill any voice possible. Like if I see the team lacking in any areas, try to pick it up, and just try to bring my toughness and try to rub it off on everybody else. Even though they already are tough, I'm just saying, just make everybody better. Just elevate each other. Mm-hmm. Try and make everybody sharper. That's it.
Next question. The screen name is Temple J. His question: Hysier, we're proud of you to have you, Philly Star, stay home. Not only raise up TU, but Philadelphia as well. What are your strengths on the hardwood, and what do you think you need to work on?
I feel like I can get to the rim really well. I still want to work on still finishing. Like I feel like every area of my game can be improved at any time. But like just be able to get my teammates better. I feel like that's something I want to do on my own. Like just continue to be a better leader. Just make the game easier for my team. That's one thing that I want to get better at on the hardwood.
Mm-hmm. Next question here. The screen name is what to you. His question is, how excited are you to be part of a class with Zach Hicks, and how often do you and Zach talk?
I'm extremely excited to be a part of a class with Zach Hicks. That's a great player. He's extremely confident, and he definitely can stretch the floor. But me and Zach, we got an okay relationship. We definitely got to, communicate a little bit more. But like with like our season is just ending, it was kind of tough, with practice and everything every day. But me and him got a great relationship so far, but it's definitely going to get better. And as time come along.
Next question. The screen name is Park Al. He says, welcome aboard. What's something unique you'll bring to the court on day one, both physically and mentally?
Just make the team better. Like, if it's offensively or defensively, like I feel like I can impact the game in both ways. So I feel like we'll be able to score easier and we'll be able to defend better. That's two things I'll guarantee almost.
Next question comes from the screen name. It's Vanter. He says, Temple fans have already anointed you as a potential program changer. How do you react to those expectations?
I don't really react to like stuff like that. I just say like whatever gets you there, that's what you need to continue to do. So I feel like the hard work that I put in to be a part of Temple's recruiting class, that's the same work, or even I'm gonna put in more work, but that's the same amount of work or more work I'm gonna put in to continue to grow. So, I'm just excited to even be in the position I am now. So
next question, the screen name is North Broad. His question is, when will Sewell Diggins give you your MVP trophy back? And that's a reference to the fact that he got named Catholic League MVP, but a lot of people think you were very deserving of it as well. A lot of times throughout the year, people would say, hey, Fabe's the best player in the city. So how do you feel about that? I know you seem pretty modest, but do you feel like you should have been the Catholic League MVP? Do you feel like you were the best player in the PCL in the city?
He won it. I'm a guy who always get a credit to where it goes, and he's the MVP. But I feel like I definitely had a chance to win MVP. But I understand how it worked. We didn't get to finish our season. We had an issue going on with the school, like with our eligibility or something. So I'm not sure how all that how that was handled and everything. But I understand that I didn't play enough games or whatever, the reason why I didn't get it. But me personally, I feel like I definitely should have. It definitely should have came to Neumann-Goretti. Definitely.
So I have one quick question for you. We only have a couple more for you, but I just have one quick question. You did something this season that really I don't think any basketball player has ever taken part in doing before this past year, and that's to play basketball while wearing a mask. Can you it's tough to take us into what that feels like and what that's like, but can you just kind of give us some sense of what it's like to play with a mask on? Because I imagine it's not easy.
Do you work out? Just a quick question.
Yes, but when I work out with a mask on, it's fine. But when I do any kind of cardio and run, it's like the worst.
So it's almost
it's the breathing part of it.
It's almost like running until you can't run no more, and then how you be exhausted and you might have your hands on your knees, and then imagine trying to get air and putting a mask on your face when you at your lowest point, when you have no more stamina, just putting a mask on. That's how. When you can't run no more, but you stop and you got your hands on your knees. Imagine gasping for air with a mask on. But a lot of the games, a lot of the schools, they wouldn't really be that hard on us, so they'll let us get air or let us play a couple possessions with our mask down. So that was a good thing. But it wasn't that bad after you got used to it. And then it was they had got these new masks. A lot of the college programs use as well. They I think $25, and they're really easy to breathe in. So that was addition once we got.
So here, two more quick questions for you, and we really, really appreciate your time today. I know a lot of guys will say, hey, I'm a basketball player. I don't do much other than my schoolwork and basketball, but what's something that you like to do other than basketball, or maybe something that people don't know about you, because we say all the time, we have guests on and you guys probably get the same questions from reporters all the time. What's something that you don't get asked about or something that people don't know about you outside the game?
I could play some Call of Duty a little bit. I'm really good at video games, but I can cook a bit, so I can make a couple dishes.
What can you cook?
All the basics, like, your basic pastas and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like some breakfast foods, if you go into like pancakes,
Mm-hmm.
eggs, bacon, all the good stuff. So I can make a lot of breakfast foods and stuff like that.
You're gonna start up like an Italian restaurant on Passyunk Avenue at some point, you think?
I don't think so. I think I'm more the guy that cook for, like, if I eventually in the future, like my family, or like, just the typical stuff, cooking to survive. I don't think I would want to get into like the restaurant industry, but if they want me to become a chef, that might be something I might have to take part in.
The final question for you. Today's National Cheesesteak Day. Everybody in Philly always gets asked like their favorite cheesesteak. Are you a cheesesteak guy?
I can eat a cheesesteak. They are extremely good, but I don't really take part in that too much. It's just like a kind of like a little messy, and like I gotta have like a taste for it because I ate them so much, being from here, like,
Yeah.
that's like a meal that like is really good, but then I kind of like outgrowing it almost. But like, I can eat one here and there.
So if you had to pick a place, I know from where you are in South Philly, I guess like Phillips is close by. Do you have a favorite place?
I would say like Ishkaville on South Street, something along the lines of that. But typically, my neighborhood convenience store can get you a great cheesesteak. I don't all of the big cheesesteak places, they good, but if you really want a good one, you gotta go to a convenience store. Like, any corner store might can get you a good cheesesteak in Philly.
Yeah. Hysier, thanks so much for spending time with us. I appreciate it. Good luck to you. We'll look forward to covering you down the road. Thanks for being on the podcast with us today.
Thank you for having me. Have a blessed day.
So again, a big thank you to Neumann-Goretti point guard Hysier Miller for spending some time with us. Again, had a heck of a senior season that was kind of cut short. They had some games that they had to forfeit and didn't get a chance to get into the PIAA playoffs and play for a PCL title. But again, he averaged 18.4 points per game, 10 rebounds, averaged a double-double, 6.4 assists, 2.9 steals, surpassed 1,000 points for his career. A lot of stuff there to break down. What'd you guys take from the interview?
I can take it first. One thing that I thought was interesting, and this is something we've talked about a handful of times, just because A, we've had him on the podcast, and B, he's been a huge part in Hysier Miller's growth, and I guess him as a basketball player, is Neumann-Goretti assistant coach John Brennan, and Hysier Miller obviously spoke very highly of him, but talking about the relationship, especially over the summer, like when they were putting in those workouts, he described him as, he's more than the coach to him and to a lot of guys. He's really an important figure in their lives, and someone that's been important to them, both to his growth, to a lot of guys around him, and he spoke very highly of him. So not something I would say I'm necessarily surprised by, but something I thought was noteworthy to hear him continue to speak so highly of his coach.
Yeah, for me, it was him just talking about his relationship with Aaron McKinney and Chris Clark. I know Sam has talked to him about, his relationship with these coaches, but I mean, I feel like that he went further in the depth and just talking about, like, he knows, for lack of a better word, like, he knows when people are kind of like BSing him, I guess, so to speak. And they weren't about that. They were totally invested in him, full on, like, in on him. And it seemed like from hearing from him, it seemed very genuine. So that was interesting just to get more like introspective into that, because I know we can only, it's all one-sided. You can't hear about how these coaches develop the relationships with these recruits until they officially sign them. I don't know if Aaron or Chris, I mean, they've given us like breadcrumbs, but nothing substantial. So it was great to hear that from Hysier.
Again, we had a mailbag question about who are you actively recruiting to come to Temple, and he mentioned Javon Adams from Olympus Prep, a 6'9" or 6'10" forward from the class of 2022, and he said, you guys, if you haven't heard much about him, you'll hear about him soon. So something to keep an eye on there. And then also, I it might sound kind of trite and cliche, but he really talked a lot about leadership. When he was asked a couple of those mailbag questions, we've heard a lot, like the toughness. He's real tough. He's a program changer. And again, obviously, I think what triggered the Temple offer, they knew about him, was, he really kicked things up a notch, was really good in the PCL title game last year. Sam mentioned some of the runs he had over the summer in the absence of AAU ball, and he dropped 50 in that one game against some really good players. So obviously when people see, he can shoot and he's good offensively too, but people always talk about the toughness with him, and he's just cut a little differently than everybody else. And you heard him a couple of times in the interview saying, I want to be a leader. And it just sounded a little different coming from him. It's easy to talk about leadership, but he talked about affecting the game in more ways than just scoring, and that really just seems to be a big part of his DNA. And we've talked so many times about how Aaron and this staff, they want an identity for the program. Obviously, they got to win a heck of a lot more games next year. They want to get to the tournament, but he's described a lot as a program changer, and I felt that kind of came through in the conversation here. All right, so transitioning over to football, quick update here, and then we have a couple of football mailbag questions here to close things out. You guys know between last week and this week, you found out that Weston Kramer, who was headed to Temple as a transfer from Northern Illinois, looked like he was going to be a big piece in shoring up the defensive line at defensive tackle. He is no longer coming to Temple, and that'll lead us into a mailbag question. But Sam Neumann, what do you know about that? What does that mean for Temple?
Well, I reached out to a couple sources. So one of them heard that a Big Ten school hit him up, and Weston Kramer might be going there. The source couldn't confirm, but that's what he heard, and I mean that probably would appear to be the case. It makes sense, especially, he's kind of cut from that cloth, and he's from, the area of where Big Ten football centralized in. Another source didn't know the details, but confirmed that he would not be coming to Temple. So obviously, it's a loss. I think it would be a significant add for them, but I think we're going to talk about it in the mailbag question, or maybe I'll answer it right here. But the way that Dan Archibong talked up Nick Baggs, especially, it should have people encouraged a little bit that they might be. The staff, I think Walter Stewart has done a decent enough job of developing defensive linemen already to put faith in their staff and developing young interior guys. So just what Archibong said about Nick Baggs makes me feel worse about losing Kramer, but it's still one of those where you're kicking yourself. This would have been a great guy to keep here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that mailbag question did come from Fig One, and the mailbag question was: assuming Kramer is out, now what at defensive line? Also, why would Temple not follow up and ensure he signed his LOI? Well, we don't know. We honestly don't know either way if he had signed his LOI and he's getting out of his letter of intent, or if he signed a scholarship agreement of some sort. So we can't really say for sure. But as Sam said, this stuff can happen sometimes, especially in the portal now. If he was approached by a Big Ten school, sure, I'm sure the fan base looking from the outside in might be saying, hey, how could they not hold on to a former Northern Illinois guy with this staff? But I don't know. Sam, you mentioned Nick Baggs. Who else has to step up this year?
I think you would like to see stuff from I think you would like to see progression from Demerick Morris and Gary Varner. Obviously, Zach Gill is going to play a big role. When I talked to Jeff Knowles, he really talked up Kevin Robertson. So I think those are probably going to be your two vet guys there, Zach Gill and Robertson, and then you'll see probably – they love to rotate interior and exterior defensive line, so I think you'll see a lot of the young guys mixing in. But, there's still time for them to add another interior defensive lineman if they like, and we know that they still have a couple of scholarship spots to play with at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. And the last mailbag question we have here to close things out, it's also a football related one. Again, it comes from our friend Pat Egan from 97.5 The Fanatic. His question, it's a two-parter with the and in all caps. So it's usually one sports question, one life question. Biggest position battles heading into spring camp, which starts next month, and worst cheesesteak story you have in honor of National Cheesesteak Day. So biggest position battle heading into spring camp. Sam Neumann, we'll go with you first. Sam Cohn, then we'll go over to you, and I'll finish it out. And then we'll talk about whatever our worst cheesesteak story is.
I would say, just mentioning the interior defensive line, I think you would assume that Weston Kramer and Zach Gill would be those two guys that you would probably circle in. So maybe that second interior defensive line spot next to Zach Gill, number 2 cornerback, and potentially quarterback, obviously, and running back. I think those are the 4 biggest ones.
Sam, if you're gonna name every position group, there's no point in John or I even having the discussion. Keep going. You
gotta fight for your scraps here. You gotta follow up.
Unbelievable. Sam, keep going. What else you got?
Wow. No, those are the only 4 ones that I was going to name. And obviously I think you just have to say quarterback because that's the most important position on this team.
That's the one I was going to go with Trad Beatty out, and we don't really know what we're going to see in Deuce Mathis. I think that it's and a lot of young talent coming up at that position. I think that's probably where you're going to see the most competition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one that everybody's going to focus on. Again, Deuce Mathis, we know about the recruiting profile coming from Georgia, but does a guy like Mariano Valenti make it interesting for him? He had to sit out last year, but again, the staff, and I'm not trying to drum this up, we won't know until spring ball comes around and preseason camp comes around. Again, we don't know if we're going to have in-person access for spring ball. My guess is that it's going to be a lot more stuff on Zoom, but at least there will be spring ball and there will be questions to ask this time around. But yeah, that's one to keep an eye on there. Again, I think that, Deuce Mathis is going to have to come in and compete for the job. Coaches say that all the time, but we'll see how he reacts to that. Or if, like we said, a guy like Mariano Valenti makes it interesting. CJ Perez talked him up a good bit. And I think at running back too, does a guy like Rayvon Bonner come in and really cement himself as the lead back, and a guy like Tavon Ruley, who has been solid, does he become the 5 to 7 carry a game guy? Either way, does that make them sharper at that position?
Also have Iverson Clement in there.
Does a guy like Iverson Clement come in and push for playing time right away? Like obviously you have Jaden Blue and Randall Jones at receiver, and they seem to be excited by what they have in Jose Barbone, Devon Fox. They like what they have at tight end with David Martin Robinson. We'll see, but I think you guys kind of hit the nail on the head with some of the other ones, number 2 cornerback position. So again, we're just excited to have some questions to ask at spring ball next month. So we'll have a better handle on that. Pat's second question: your worst cheesesteak story you have in honor of National Cheesesteak Day. I think the worst. This is a shot at Sam. Worst cheesesteak story in my life is hearing Sam Cohn call it a steak and cheese about a month or two ago.
I think that's a fair.
That's not my story.
Fair
I don't know if that's my story. I don't know if I have a worst cheesesteak story. Do you guys have a worst cheesesteak story?
I honestly don't have a bad one. I mean, maybe maybe before coming to Philadelphia and eating cheesesteaks, quote unquote cheesesteaks in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Not actually a cheesesteak. I don't think I necessarily have a bad one besides trying to go to gyms on a couple of occasions and the line being around the corner and we go to Ishkabibbles now or something like that. But it's not it's a bad alternative, but you want a gym, so.
And Ishkabibbles is Hysier Miller's favorite cheesesteak spot. Anyway, the steak and cheeses up north are not exactly amazing. Worst cheesesteak story, I would say I don't feel like I've had enough cheesesteaks or gone out for cheesesteaks enough times. The sample size isn't large enough that I've had a really horrible experience. I've had my order messed up before. That's kind of a day ruiner. But yeah, I don't think I have a horror story.
I don't know if I do either. I think all my cheesesteak stories have been pretty.
I feel like Kyle would have a good one.
Kyle probably has a cheesesteak story about eating a cheesesteak that didn't agree with him and then him having to run to a bathroom or something like that. I can remember a couple of years ago, I met up with a couple of friends of mine and we went to the garage in Northern Liberties, and Joe's is across the street, and we decided to have a late cheesesteak. Came back and I get home and, because we sat in the place, and, if you sit in a cheesesteak place, you will come out smelling like fried onions and cheese and the meat and everything. And I get home and Chelsea said, "Oh, so you guys stopped for a cheesesteak afterward?" I said, "How'd you know?" She's like, you smell like the place. And I was like, "Yeah." And it was 2 a.m. She's like, you're going to shower before you fall asleep, right? And I was like, "Come on, I'm fine." She's like, "I want you to shower before you go to bed. You smell. And she likes, we don't eat a ton of them, but I got a laugh out of that. But I don't know. We'll try to find a place around here out in the suburbs to find a place tonight. But I don't know. I don't know that I've even attempted to eat a cheesesteak outside of the city. When they call them, again, I'm not trying to teach you too much here. When they call the steak and cheese, or if they say an authentic real Philly cheesesteak, nah.
Never again. I mean, maybe places in South. I feel like obviously you probably could in Jersey, but never never outside of this vicinity will I do that again.
Well, for me, it's got to be I think that you could be anywhere and dice the meat and the onions and the cheese and whatever you want to put on it. To me, it's the bread. If it's not on a good like Sarcone's roll or something similar, I think that's the biggest thing that people run into is you don't get the good Sarcone's bread or again, something similar to that in other areas. And I think if I were eating a cheesesteak somewhere and the bread was bad, it's just bleh. It's the worst. It's the worst thing to hit your lips in the whole process, I would say. So anyway, that'll do it for this week. Thanks to Pat for his question and all the mailbag questions that we got with the Hysier Miller interview. And again, of course, a big thank you to him for spending as much time as he did with us on the podcast as well. Figured he'll be a pretty important piece for the Owls next year, along with Zach Hicks. Again, they have one more scholarship to fill, potentially two. We'll see how things go with any potential roster movement in the portal. So thank you all for listening again this week, and we will talk to you soon.